Good day. This is the Corrupt True Crime Podcast, and I'm Charlie Cruz. Today's episode is about a federal informant whose mind worked with such calculated precision that he functioned less like a human being and more like a piece of software, processing targets, executing commands, and feeding data back to his handlers with mechanical efficiency. The FBI counterintelligence specialist walked into Foxstone Park on a cold February evening, carrying a package of America's most classified secrets. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd done this dozens of times before. What made this exchange different from all the others? Simple. This time, the people watching him weren't Russian intelligence officers. They were his colleagues, and they'd been waiting 22 years for this moment. Robert Hanssen had a problem that most criminals never face. He knew exactly how spy catchers catch spies, because catching spies was literally his job. Think about that for a second. The best way to commit the perfect crime is to know every technique used to solve it, to understand surveillance methods inside and out, to have access to ongoing investigations so you can see the net before it closes. Hanssen didn't just have this knowledge, he taught it to the very people who would eventually hunt him. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Hanssen grew up in Chicago, the son of a hard-nosed police officer who never seemed satisfied with anything his kid did. Maybe that planted something. Maybe it created a man who spent his whole life needing to prove he was the smartest person in the room. He joined the FBI in the late 70s, quickly moving into counterintelligence work, the realm of secrets within secrets. His colleagues described him as brilliant, but strange, socially awkward, dismissive, the kind of guy who'd correct your grammar while you're trying to have a conversation. On the surface, he seemed like the last person who'd become a traitor. Devout Catholic, suburban Virginia family man with 6 kids, government salary, modest house, sensible car. The whole package screamed reliability. Underneath, different story entirely. Here's what made Hanssen's betrayal so audacious. He didn't just have access to sensitive information. He had access to the systems that protected it. He understood FBI computer security because he sat on the committees that designed it. He knew surveillance techniques because he trained agents in how to use them. And most importantly, he often worked on the very investigations trying to find the mole, which was him. The Russians couldn't believe their luck when he first reached out. An FBI counterintelligence officer volunteering to provide classified information had to be a trap, but Hanssen had thought of that. His first communication essentially said, "Here's some genuine intelligence to prove I'm real. Here's what I want in return. And by the way, we're never meeting face to face. Ever." That last part was genius. Most spies get caught during meetings with handlers. Surveillance teams follow known intelligence officers, photograph their contacts, build cases. Hanssen eliminated that risk entirely with a system so old school, it was revolutionary. Dead drops. Those hiding spots you see in Cold War movies. Except this was real, and it was happening in suburban Virginia parks while soccer moms walked their dogs. Here's how it worked. He'd package classified documents and computer disks in plastic bags, drive to a predetermined location, Nottoway Park, Foxstone Park, places with footbridges and wooded areas. He'd hide the package under a bridge or behind a sign. Then he'd go to a completely separate signal site and place a piece of tape on a park sign. That tape told his handlers the drop was ready. They'd collect it, verify the contents, then leave payment at a different location. Cash, diamonds, sometimes over $100,000 at once. The beauty of this system, no one ever saw both parties in the same place. No meetings, no phone calls, no restaurants or park benches, just packages appearing and disappearing. For communications, he used encryption software and carefully worded messages. He called himself Ramon Garcia, though the Russians never fully trusted this anonymous source. They paid him. They used his intelligence, but they never knew his real name for years.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
And what intelligence he provided. The identities of Russian intelligence officers secretly working for the United States. Some of these men face severe consequences because of information Hanssen sold. Surveillance techniques and technologies that cost billions to develop. Nuclear war planning documents. The existence of a secret tunnel under the Soviet embassy that was supposed to be one of America's best-kept secrets. 6,000 pages of documents. 26 computer disks. an intelligence disaster that kept expanding as investigators later tried to assess the damage. The money added up to about $1.4 million over more than 2 decades. Sounds like a lot, until you consider what he sold. Then it seems almost insultingly low, which suggests money wasn't his only motivation. Profilers later concluded that ego played a huge role, the thrill of outsmarting the system, resentment toward FBI leadership who he felt didn't appreciate his brilliance, the simple satisfaction of proving he could do it. Here's where it gets really twisted. In the early 80s, his wife Bonnie discovered evidence he was spying, confronted him. Hanssen admitted it, claimed he'd only approached the Russians but hadn't actually sold anything significant, said he'd confessed to a priest and stopped. She believed him, wanted to believe him. They had 6 kids and a life together. He hadn't stopped. He just got better at hiding it. Throughout the 90s, American intelligence agencies knew they had a massive problem. Operations were failing. Agents were disappearing in Russia. Sources were drying up. The pattern pointed clearly to a mole. Someone with extraordinary access was feeding information to Moscow. But who? The investigation went sideways for a while, focusing on a CIA officer named Brian Kelly. Wrong guy. Meanwhile, the actual mole was sometimes working on the investigation into himself. Hanssen would access FBI databases to check if anyone was looking at him. When he saw his name wasn't on lists, he knew he was safe. When other investigations heated up, he'd go quiet for a while. His caution, ironically, kept him secure. But here's the thing about running the perfect crime. It only takes one unpredictable factor to unravel everything. That factor came in the form of a Russian intelligence officer who decided $7 million was worth more than loyalty. He approached American intelligence with a file from KGB archives. The file documented an American mole, but didn't include a name. However, it contained something better, an audio recording of the mole's voice, details about his technical expertise, references to his security clearances, a description of a distinctive bag he used. FBI investigators created a short list of suspects with the right access and expertise. Then they played the voice recording. Some people have distinctive ways of speaking, particular phrases, rhythms. When they matched that voice with the technical profile and clearance levels, one name kept floating to the top. Robert Hanssen. Now came the delicate part. They couldn't just arrest him without proof. They needed to catch him in the act, so they engineered what looked like a promotion, transferred him to a new position at FBI headquarters that seemed like career advancement. In reality, it limited his access to sensitive information and made surveillance easier. They installed monitoring equipment in his car, tracked his movements, waited for him to make a drop. While they watched, they searched his background more carefully. Unauthorized database searches about ongoing leak investigations, computer access logs that didn't match his assigned duties, a pattern of being in certain areas at certain times that coincided with known compromise dates. The circumstantial evidence piled up, but they needed the smoking gun. February, cold and dark. Hanssen drove to Foxstone Park carrying a package of classified documents. Walked to the footbridge, placed the package in its hiding spot, walked to the signal site, put the tape on the sign, turned back toward his car. FBI agents surrounded him. Full tactical team. Weapons drawn. The counterintelligence specialist who'd spent over 2 decades teaching others about surveillance had missed the watchers in his own blind spot. When they confronted him, identified themselves, Hanssen reportedly asked, "What took you so long?" Some sources say he also said, "I knew this day would come." Not defiance, resignation, maybe even relief. They found everything in his car and home. The Palm Pilot with encrypted communications, packaging materials matching those used at drop sites, computer disks, the distinctive bag mentioned in the Russian file. His own operational security, so perfect for so long, became the evidence that sealed his fate.
Oh, hey, friend. Do you like what you're hearing? Now you can have a ridiculously amazing podcast, too. Check out holler.studio to get yourself one today.
The charges carried a potential death penalty: espionage, conspiracy, selling state secrets to an enemy. But Hanssen had one last card to play. He offered a deal: full cooperation with damage assessment, polygraph tests about the complete extent of his betrayal. In exchange, life in prison instead of execution. The government took it. They needed to know exactly what had been compromised, Which operations were blown? Which agents were at risk? How deep the damage went? Hanssen provided some answers. Investigators believe he held some secrets back even then. Old habits. In the summer of that same year, a federal judge sentenced him to life in prison without possibility of parole. No appeals, no second chances. He was sent to ADX Florence, the supermax facility in Colorado where America keeps its most dangerous criminals. 23 hours a day in solitary confinement, 1 hour for exercise in a concrete yard, no contact with other prisoners, no windows to the outside world. He's still there, late 70s now, will die there. The FBI completely overhauled its security protocols after his arrest. Computer access monitoring became exponentially more sophisticated. Financial background checks on personnel with high-level clearances got more rigorous. Insider threat programs were developed and implemented across intelligence agencies. The whole community learned an expensive lesson about the danger of assuming your own people are trustworthy just because they pass initial screening. The case became a movie called Breach, depicting the final surveillance operation that caught him. Books were written analyzing his psychology. The intelligence community studied him like a virus, trying to understand how someone with everything to lose would risk it all. Here's what makes the Hanssen case so fascinating from a pure tradecraft perspective. His methodology was nearly flawless. The dead drop system eliminated the most common way spies get caught. His understanding of counterintelligence techniques let him design espionage that defeated standard detection methods. His access to investigation databases gave him early warning of any interest in his activities. For over 20 years, the system worked. The only reason he got caught was something he couldn't control or predict. A Russian defector with archives. That single unpredictable human factor ended a career in betrayal that might have otherwise continued until retirement. But here's the other side of that coin. 22 years of looking over his shoulder. 2 decades of maintaining lies to everyone around him. A marriage built partially on deception. Raising kids while secretly selling out his country. Whatever money he made, whatever ego satisfaction he gained from outsmarting the FBI, he paid for it every single day in stress and constant vigilance. And now he's paying a different price. Every day in a cell that's roughly the size of a parking space. No sunlight, no conversation, no freedom. Ever. The man who thought he was smarter than everyone else gets to spend the rest of his life alone with that intelligence. The Hanssen case proves something important about even the cleverest crimes. Perfection is impossible because you can't account for every variable. The defector you don't know exists. The archive you don't know was kept. The voice recording you don't know was made. Eventually, something breaks your way or breaks against you. For 22 years, everything broke Hanssen's way. Then it didn't. Justice in espionage cases doesn't always come quickly, but it came. The spy who taught others how to catch spies learned that the techniques he knew so well work both ways. The counterintelligence specialist became the subject of counterintelligence. The hunter became the hunted. And in the end, the watchers caught the watcher. The thing about brilliant schemes is that they are seldom brilliant enough, and no matter how clever you are, the house almost always wins. Now, if you enjoyed our show, tap that follow button and 5 stars in our ratings. Catch you next time.
Grep News. Tamez.